Hello everyone, we are presenting one episode with one special guest here today, and she's Dr. Theyiesinuo Keditsu. And it's been like quite some time we are trying to bring her on our show, and finally this is happening, and we're excited that you get to hear her talk on many of the things that we have planned, mostly dealing with, culture and society. But before we begin, I would like to briefly introduce her a little bit on who she really is. So Dr. Theyiesinuo Keditsu is an indigenous, feminist, poet, academic, and educator. So she advocates for the revival of indigenous Naga textiles and women's narratives through her popular Instagram avatar known as Mekhala Mama. And she is a PhD. She has done her PhD in cultural studies from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. And she is a well-sought speaker and educator within Naga community and Northeast at large. She is known by the name Mekhala Mama on Instagram. She's an Instagram superstar. So you must have come across her activities or her kind of pictures and contents from Instagram as well. So it's a great privilege for us to have this discussion and just conversation with her. And I'm really happy that finally you have come forward to come to this show and have a conversation on various matters.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And this evening, we would like to focus a lot on things related to culture. And I mean, in the beginning, you are well known for the Naga cultural wears and attires that you normally put up on Instagram as one of your contents. And I just want to know when you began that, how did you begin? Did you have an intention, or how did that start?
It was a combination of certain factors and circumstances. One thing we have in common is we're both alumni of TIS Mumbai. One of the best institutions in the world. Yay, so I'm such a proud alumni.
Right.
And I owe TIS so much for, molding me to be the person that I am today. And I was doing my PhD at that time. I was enrolled in the School of Media and Cultural Studies, and I was doing my PhD in cultural studies. So, of course, I was already researching Naga culture. My doctoral thesis was on cultural identity. And so I was already looking at so many aspects of Naga culture. That was one. The second is I've always had an interest in fashion. And personally, from the Naga side, I've always had an interest and love for Naga textiles. And I was also working in Kohima at that time. And I had just had my second son. And I was trying to balance, work, motherhood, and finances. Because, I don't know if everyone knows, but, when you get married, you have children, then the reality of trying to balance, sort of your financial needs, etc., your spending, it becomes a real thing.
I know.
And so, as a woman who wants to dress very well, but needs to start restricting her budget, I was also thinking about how is it possible for me to express myself in a way that represents who I am, what is important to me, represents, my ideologies, but also is fun and pleasurable. So putting all that together, that's how I started wearing mekhlas to work on a daily basis.
Okay, but I want to understand more on to have that budget-friendly wears.
Yes.
So do you mean to say that our traditional wears are cheaper than the kind of fashions that we get from the street?
No, that's actually a bit paradoxical because they're absolutely not. They're very expensive, and I've been having conversations regarding that as well. But for me, I actually had access to my mother's mekhlas. So she retired about 2 years before I started working in Kohima. So suddenly she didn't have the need to wear her mekhlas on a daily basis anymore. And she had a lifetime's worth of mekhlas.
Yes.
And because I've always been interested in mekhlas, so she had given me a lot of hers. And so I had, these wonderful, beautiful textiles available to me. And I thought, okay, why don't I just use this? So it wasn't just her textile. She'd given me, she gave me all her bags, she gave me all her clothes. So I thought, okay, fine. This is a great way for me to save money, to just use something that's already been given to me instead of spending money on new items. Yeah, so that's what I mean. Otherwise, mekhalas are very, very expensive.
I was kind of shocked.
Yes.
Mekhalas are... Because for gifts and celebration, when you have events, you look out for traditional attires as to give as a gift to the guest. Right. But whenever you go and check out, it's damn expensive.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
So that's very clear. Thanks for that. But you have sisters also.
Yes.
Like a personal question. You have sisters also. You got in kind of like your mom passed you down such traditional wears. Since you're more interested than other sisters to wear such mekhalas?
Yes, okay. That definitely. So each of us got what we're interested. I mean, she gave according to, what we like.
And as I scrolled through your Instagram account, I see lots of, you don't just wear angami or something related to your mom's tribe or your dad's tribe. You wear diversified mekhalas from other tribes as well.
Yes.
Like how, because it's very rare to think like anyone wearing other tribes mekhalas or traditional wear. I cannot imagine wearing, for example, like waistcoat.
I see.
Because I don't have that attachment.
Right.
Because we Nagas are very specific to our own tribe.
Right.
What made you think that, you develop yourself the love for other tribe mekhalas as well?
That's such an interesting question. Yeah. So this is part of my research. So as much as I was wanting to learn about different kinds of cloths, there were cloths that I had inherited from my mother, but I did have a little bit of disposable income. So I could think about, okay, if I did want to spend my money, how will I spend my money? So in general, I hardly buy contemporary mekhalas. I usually spend my money buying traditional mekhalas from different tribes. And when I do that, I do it with a lot of research. So what I like to say is I always like to get to know a textile. So even if I buy it or if it is gifted to me, because as the account became more and more popular, people started gifting me their mekhalas and their shawls, etc. And I always say, okay, thank you, but I need some time. And I spend time researching the textile. I spend time talking to people from that tribe about the textile. And then only once I feel like I've learned enough about the textile, I know their stories properly. And once I see whether it is possible for me to wear it appropriately, whether I can honor it by wearing it, only then I wear it. So there are one or two textiles that I have that I've never worn because as I've done the research, I realized, okay, I'm not, as of now, I either do not qualify to wear it or it would be wrong for me to wear it. So there are two textiles. So it's in my collection.
Yeah. So for every motif of our textile, there are stories, right?
I wouldn't, no.
Not every. Okay.
How
do you differentiate that?
According to the different tribes, yes, there are some motifs that mean things. There are certain motifs that, let's say, one very quick example would be, the iconic Ao Mekhla, and it's the motif is a cucumber seed. So it's just sort of a kind of textile mimicry, like a natural thing, So they're just mimicking what is in nature, and so it doesn't have a meaning as such, but it's just that because cucumber seeds were there, they put it in their textiles. So they're different things. And of course, if you look at different shawls and motifs, yes, some mean things. Some mean that, you've taken an enemy's head. Some mean that, you've thrown a feast of merit, etc. But I think to sort of simply say every motif has a story is to, sort of read meanings that may not exist. Yeah.
And sometimes as a male, I just wonder how comfortable it is to wear a traditional mekhala like that. I mean, I'm sure, maybe I'm assuming that many of our youngsters, especially our young women, are not comfortable wearing mekhala anymore. They're more comfortable with jeans and skirts and whatnot. So how do you comment on that, like comfort-wise?
I think it's the same as, because since I'm a woman, I can only wear mekhalas. And of course, we women have our shawls.
Right.
But a lot of the work I do is I also try and convince men to wear their shawls. So the same question is, how comfortable are you wearing your shawl? You know, because many men are not anymore.
Right.
And in winter, or once it becomes cooler, the weather, actually, shawls make a lot of sense for men.
Absolutely.
Shawls make a lot of sense. And the thing is, again, if you look at, the economics of it, it's actually cheaper for you to invest in a shawl and wear it for perpetuity than, buying a very expensive coat or overcoat that may go out of style, that may get old, that may do many things. So the same logic applies whether you're a man or a woman. It's just that if you because they are expensive, but if you invest in a mekhala and a shawl, it's sort of a great investment. But in terms of the comfort, I think it's just, it's a process, It's a process. I don't think one of the things that I'm very deliberate about, and I'm very careful to do through this account and all the work that I do, is I don't want to force anybody to wear mekhala. I'm just proposing an idea, just getting them to think about it.
Yes.
Because I think prior to me starting this account, many people were not even thinking about it, as in when they thought about how am I going to dress, mekhala was not even one of the options. So I like to think that through my work, at least mekhala has become a possible option. But then after that, it depends on every woman or man, shawl for the shawl, every woman or man thinking about how they understand their bodies, how they want to work with ideas of comfort and discomfort, and perhaps in that process deciding, maybe today I want to try and see if I can wear this in public,
Okay.
So,
Okay. I mean, that's interesting. It's a great way of promoting our own culture, which is somehow dying in its own way. Because comparatively, like, people are more comfortable wearing the Western clothings rather than our own traditional attires.
Very true. And I think this is, it's a, when we look at that, it's a combination of our colonization, so our cultural colonization. It's also a combination of conversion, us entering into Christianity, because one of the ways that, Christianity was sort of inculcated into us is by mission schools forbidding students to come in their cultural attire and to start wearing, the Western uniforms, etc. And of course, definitely, capitalism, globalization, the market, what a powerful force.
Absolutely.
So unless, we sort of raise consciousness and we become conscious of these forces, we think it's natural for us. Let's just buy the thing that's most convenient. Let's buy the thing that's fashionable. Let's buy the thing that's cheap, expedient. And so we all wear Western clothes.
Right. And as someone, that's very enlightening. And as someone who has been so much into traditional attire in the form of mekhalas, how is our society, let's say the Naga society, how much are we conversant with the idea of our traditional attires now? Are we on the dying side, or are we on the resurrecting side now?
I think we're definitely on the resurrecting side.
Really?
Yes.
Of course. I mean, with the contribution of your page and your contents, our consciousness for our traditional attires is also rising, I would say. I have become more aware of our traditional attires now than before. So, I mean, I just want to hear your comments on that.
I think definitely there is an awareness. The government of Nagaland is currently in the process of coordinating with all the tribal bodies, and all the tribal bodies are currently engaged in documenting their textiles. And I think that's such a important moment for us, in our cultural reclamation. I think that is very important. And I think, yes, a lot of people are thinking about textiles in different ways, and it's become part of, especially the youth, because I do a lot of research in contemporary youth cultures in Nagaland, and definitely the youth also are looking to using our textiles to express their own identities. Yeah. But having said that, I think this sort of new focus and attention on our textiles has also brought to light certain kinds of hierarchies that may or may not work for the kind of result I would like to see. You know, let's say this word that we use very often is misusing our textiles.
Okay.
And I think that's a very sort of gray and subjective area.
Right.
You know, because on the one hand, yes, misusing in terms of, you know, shawls that you give to people being used as tablecloths, or you know, mekhalas being turned into cushion covers. Yes, okay, fine. That is maybe for me. Again, this is very subjective.
Very, very much.
But that for me, maybe perhaps I will say is misuse. You know, but on the other hand, sort of giving freedom to our creative people, our designers, and especially for our young people to sort of decide and see how they can question, you know, certain meanings, question certain uses in their own ways to see if they can create new meanings and uses for our textiles. I think that is something that, you know, we need to be open to because culture is always changing.
Exactly.
And especially, you know, the ones who are going to end up using our textiles the most are the next generation. So there needs to be a bit of a, you know, sort of willingness to debate
Exactly.
how we understand use, misuse,
Yes.
and sort of, you know, be more open to interpretations by especially our creative people, our designers, and our youth.
You have raised a very, very interesting point. I remember one incident where one designer, a young designer, made umbrella out of like the traditional attire, and it looks amazingly beautiful. I mean, to our eyes. But it seems like the tribal bodies, especially the women group, did not like it. So he was forced to apologize, and he had to stop the production of that product. So I have a confusion now, like to draw the line between the creativity, like you have mentioned, the youngsters wanting to just adapt and create, be more creative, and at the same time maintaining our culture, the real identity of that motif. Example, right? Because when you there was an incident where, you know, on Amazon there was a doormat made of Indian flag. An Indian foreign minister had to condemn Amazon and take it off from the website.
I see.
So I think those are the cases. But when you look at Americans, they make they can wear anything with their flags. There are like their innerwears made of flags, and so there is a big gap between them and us.
Right.
So what's your opinion, like drawing these lines between these two? Because I want people to be creative and come out with adapting to changing culture, as you mentioned. How do we go about this?
I think here, you know, I keep saying this over and over again, but specificity is very, very important, you know. And one of the things that I think we Nagas need to learn or embrace is our oral culture. So let's say, you know, if you look at our legal system, you know, we have, you know, oral laws. So each one is separate. And so then the exact kind of debate in textiles or any other cultural aspect is also with, you know, our customary laws, you know. So there's one school that says, oh, we need to codify. And there's another school says, no, we cannot codify, you know. And of course, and across the world, we have, we have, you know, nations that have codified their laws and constitutions. And we have nations, great, wonderful ones, even our former masters in Britain, who have not codified their constitutions, etc. So, you know, there's a wide range. And I certainly belong to the school that, you know, feels that our customary laws should not be codified at all. Because the minute you codify, you're shifting. You know, you're shifting from one paradigm to the other. You know, so the minute you write something, you're fixing it forever. And you're losing this opportunity to sort of address every single moment and occasion within its specific context. And that's the beauty of our, you know, oral tradition. And so the same, I think, applies even for textiles and these debates on textiles. The minute you codify, the minute you say, have a rule that, these are our textiles and that is it. Anybody who, deviates from how they are sort of going to be punished and go to... then it really moves towards a certain kind of fixing of our textiles, as opposed to just simply being open. So like I said, I'm not saying that there is no such thing as misuse of, our textile traditions. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are. And I certainly would not be happy if, somebody made a doormat out of an Angami shawl or any other shawl for that matter.
Right.
But at the same time, to address each situation as a specific situation, rising out of a specific kind of creative process. Mm-hmm. One of the things is, because we are an oral society with a culture that has actually come from this beautiful, rich oral tradition, but we are stuck in a very sort of non-oral kind of world, where, the dominant system is this Western sort of codifying, recording, property type system. Is that, I think many times we feel like life is so fast, let's just make everything quick. Let's just make quick rules and then let's just punish those who don't follow. But if we think about our rich tradition in the past, we made time for each other to just sit and talk, and one of the beautiful things I've noticed about conflict resolution here in our traditional context is that people just sit and talk, and many times they don't even talk about the actual issue for which they've met, but everybody has their say, everybody listens to each other, everybody feels heard. Okay. And I think that kind of method is something we can use even in our, in the controversies and the controversies that will definitely come. Because at the end, creativity is also about pushing boundaries, about questioning the status quo, right? Exactly. So each case should be addressed, specifically.
I mean, I'm also kind of like, it makes me think about the codification of our traditional, let's say, customary rules and all of this. It becomes very subject to misinterpretation as well, because like it's an oral, and when it's not codified, with the passing down of from when it comes to another generation from now, then we never know. The oral format may not remain the same, right? So anyway, that's another point for discussion, on the codification of our traditional customary rules and traditional values and all of this. So, I mean, that's too vast a topic for us to really, but yeah, that's what strikes my mind when you were mentioning about this. Same goes with our traditional attires and mekhalas. If it is not written down, then people who are using today, do you think people after 20, 30 years will have the same understanding?
This is, I mean, I think, if you propose it with those words, you're assuming that our oral tradition is going to die and we are only going to be left with a written tradition. And that is something personally, not just in textiles, but just entirely in my entire body of work, I've really started gravitating towards why do we have to assume that oral traditions or, communities that have oral traditions are just going to easily give up and move and switch to written cultures? Why? And I think for me, one of the things that makes me a little optimistic, a little brave, is also this whole media that we have. Suddenly, because of this technology we have, the digital media we have, there is suddenly a chance for people like us, small indigenous groups, pockets in different parts of the world, for us to recreate some form of orality, to return to something where we are not writing, but we are speaking and we are preserving spoken records for generations. So I think that makes me optimistic. And I think, yes, if we actually continue to do orality, the next generations will remember. Because I don't know about you, but when I talk to, because in my work I talk to a lot of elders, astounding memories. Astounding memories. They remember, what the leaves smelt like on the day that they went, to the market to buy their first fish. That is how much they remember. And the beautiful thing about, our oral tradition is also sort of its affinity with truth. Okay? I mean, I know these days maybe we think, we can't rely on it. Maybe it's not true. But the thing is, it's a version, and versions are also true, when different accounts. And so, this idea that we always have to write everything down, and everything has to be written, and only what is written will survive. This is something that I feel goes completely against what oral traditions actually accomplish,
Sure.
And the fact that we Nagas have been able to come generation after generation without written records for this long,
Yeah.
It shows that we can still go on. It's just that we need to train our young people. We need to be a little stubborn and say, no, I think I'm also going to try and find time to speak to other people, and it, like I said, it requires time and effort. So it requires me going to my elders and the older people in my community, sitting and saying, I actually want to hear what you want, what you want to say. And then me taking the time to call younger people and say, I also want to pass something on, And that is, like I said, the world now is discouraging us from doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, just write it down. Just record it. It's there. It'll be there somewhere, stored, archived, and you can always access it. But the thing is, then if we do that, we're destroying a beautiful oral tradition,
I think I need to give a more deeper thought on that. That's something quite very new concept for me to think about. Yeah, I mean, because all I have been thinking is anything that is, vulnerable to loss, to any kind of losses, then it has to be recorded, archived, so documented, so people from the future generation can still get it, like even in our absence.
Right.
And that's how the Western world has taught us. Right.
Absolutely.
Yes, this whole cultural assimilation, our indigenous culture getting assimilated to Western culture and getting mixed up, and where we cannot draw the line anymore. I feel that this is the situation, this is the generation and cultural generation. This is the moment where we're all mixed up.
Okay.
That's my personal feeling and observation. So if we have to really decolonize ourselves, starting from our mindset to education system, and even it goes down to the curriculum. I mean, so the whole process has to begin. So education also plays a very important role, right? Because when we were young, we were not taught that our indigenous culture is as good as any other culture. We were taught that if you study well, you can go to other world Western countries and live there.
Yeah.
And that's how our mind is being shaped when we were young. So education and school system will also play a very, very important role. And now coming to that, it's part of a thinking as well, right? It's we need to critically think on why we have to stop adopting the Western culture. And because we have a culture, for which we're very proud of. And now, from our past conversation, personal conversation also, you mentioned a lot on critical thinking. And the whole points of critical consciousness. I think as a society, we lack so much on that.
Yeah.
We just go by what we are served, right? So we don't really try to think and create that critical consciousness in our mind. So what's your thought on in our society when it comes to critical thinking?
I think I just want to say something about what you said about assimilation is, I think whatever it is, some kind of, sort of synthesis will happen, because that's, let's say something like cowrie shells, which we think are such a sort of definitive part of our textiles or even our jewelry, are not from here. they're from outside, and they're a result of trade between us and, other people. For that matter, even now, many of the textiles that we think of as traditional are actually were not possible before because they didn't have the yarn or the color, So there will necessarily always be a mixing, as long as people come into contact, different civilizations come into contact, there are always going to be, sort of fusions and, mixing. That is natural.
Okay.
But I think when we talk about decolonization, we're just, at least for me, I'm thinking about more in terms of, are we in control of the kind of mixing we are doing? Or are we mixing or being made to mix, in certain ways? So especially I think when it comes to education, this idea that, and since you're in education and you're doing that, this whole NEP and how now they're looking at vernacular languages and they're trying to bring up vernacular languages. And as an educator and as a parent, and also as a person who only speaks English fluently, like literally, this is one of my greatest sorrows, is that the only language I can speak fluently is English, so with all my politics, sort of it kind of gets cut short. So, but I've also been thinking about, wouldn't it be wonderful to sort of return to some kind of education system where we can bring the vernacular, I don't know, if not on par? I mean, definitely, again, I really don't think we should think about it in terms of, Western is bad. Now let us go back, completely return to, some kind of, indigenous past. I think that's very dangerous as well,
Absolutely.
I think what is beautiful about, cultural synthesis is that you realize, here, I'm exposed to now even more cultures. And what are the ways that I can take what is good? What are the ways we can relinquish what is bad about our culture also? Because as much as I'm very proud to be Naga and I'm very proud of Naga culture, that's not to say that there are not some aspects of our culture that are quite regressive, oppressive. And so those are aspects that we should be willing to, sort of give up. But in education, yes, definitely, I think that is the key. And like I said, because of our colonial inheritance, and because literally until very recently, whether it is in the state or whether it is in central education policies, I don't think there's really been a very deliberate, concerted effort to question the colonial spine, the backbone of our entire educational system. There hasn't been. We can tweak it here, tweak it there. But like you said, essentially, what are we trying to produce? We are trying to produce children who can go abroad and study in those universities, without thinking about not just the great educational institutions we have in this country, one of which we went to, but also to think about how this subcontinent actually has one of the oldest and most ancient traditions of education in the whole world, in human civilization.
Exactly.
So what does Western academia have, when it comes to India's history of knowledge? It's unbelievable, when we think about what we have produced. We have produced some of the world's greatest philosophies, some of the world's greatest religions, and even now, even if there is that brain drain, I mean, our best minds, okay, fine, they're leaving. But the thing is, they're still becoming the best minds in the world. So, and not because of their own merit, but because they do belong to this very sort of ancient and excellent tradition of education. So, I feel very encouraged. I mean, of course, when you look at the NEP, you can interpret it in many different ways, and I think perhaps there may be more sinister intentions in the way that it's been drafted, but if you're an optimist, I think, and also if you do interpretation for a living, you can read that document and also see it as, a potential for doing different kinds of education. So I'm quite excited.
Great. I mean, NEB is another thing. I'm not really well versed with that. But there are cases where NEB is just like, kind of rejected and overthrown, like the case of Karnataka. Since the Congress came, they're like, we don't need this NEB.
Right.
We're going to draft our own.
Okay. Well,
I mean,
wonderful.
I haven't really given a time,
Right,
what they wanted and what they're
right.
not getting from it.
Right.
That's another perspective on the NEB as well. But yeah, I don't have well-versed knowledge on that. So I really like the point that we don't have to really decolonize everything that we have. We have to also de-indigenize ourselves, maybe. For many bad customs that we have, for many oppressive practices and traditions that we have. So I think we are really trying to harvest or harness the positive points from every culture that comes to us, right?
Absolutely.
So, and in order to do that, we need to critically think of anything that comes in contact with us.
Very much.
So, how critical is a society when it comes to thinking?
I don't think very much at all. And that's the sad thing is, again, this is one of the reasons why, everything I've read that Ngugi wa Thiong'o has written.
Hey, by the way, who is that person? Sorry, I'm not aware of that person.
That will take another episode in 1,000 years. He's a Kenyan writer.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
He's a Kenyan writer, philosopher, academic, and he's fantastic because, he's thought a lot about, sort of decolonizing in very original ways. And I think that's really important. Like I said, because we read a lot about decolonization. But the thing is, as long as Western academia and more sort of, not just Western academia, when I talk about that, I think maybe, as long as sort of white male academics are, sort of producing the bulk of the knowledge on decolonization. I mean, it's like what, So then for me, that's why Ngugi wa Thiong'o and what he does and what he writes, it resonates with me because he's speaking from the perspective of the colonized. And so, and at the end, like whether it's decolonization or whether it is setting yourself free, it's only the slave that can do it. No, exactly. When the master says, "Chalo, like I would like you to be free. Now you decide, and maybe you can do these options." I mean, is that really freedom? So yeah, but like I said, everything that he has written about, it really resonates with me because essentially, oh God, it's just going to be horrible me trying to sum up the works of somebody I admire so much. But let's say maybe one aspect to answer your question is just simply this idea of, how you think about what is happening to you, and what has happened to you. And as long as we just, and then in order to answer that, there's another man who has influenced me deeply, is Paulo Freire. So he's an educational philosopher actually, but he talks about education as a banking system, where the teacher just deposits and the students just that whole like they just give and you just eat. When you think about these aspects, is what happened to us. We were taught not to question, just to consume.
Yeah.
And if we questioned, there were certain, sort of punitive measures, etc. And what that's done for us, I think, and then of course our last form of colonization, which is, sort of even now, is still at large now also, is we have been taught not to question. We have been taught not to stand up for ourselves. True. We have been taught, this is in the mind, very deep, in our minds. And so because of that, we just, like, let's say, even in the government, they'll say, oh, this policy is happening. Development is coming, and it's amazing. Sometimes, you just see how the public responds. You see how things are going and you realize, wow, nobody's really thinking about it. They're just, sort of swallowing anything. So government says it, if among the older generation, they always say sarkari, like they say it. And they just consume it. There's no critical thinking.
Yeah.
And because of that, here I will say Nagas, and it's a process. It's not like we never had, we do have wonderful traditions, and that's one thing that makes me so proud to be a Naga.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we are such a special people, whether it is in, the Indian subcontinent or, geopolitics at large, we are such a special people. This is going to start becoming quite hardcore. I don't know if you're going to be able to air this,
Everything will be aired.
But, we are special. Why? Because we didn't say, oh, wow, power is changing over and we're just okay with it. Sure. Like, one master is going, sure, we'll just take another master. That's what made us special. We said, no, we don't want a master. Like, we never wanted this one. We don't want the next one also.
Yeah.
I think that's as figuratively as I can put it,
Okay.
That's what makes us special. And that's what makes me very proud to be Naga.
True.
But many things have happened to us since, many sort of extraordinary things have happened to us. And as a people, we have been battered and beaten so much. And I think one of the things that has happened is it's sort of made us docile in ways that are not going to benefit us in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
That's as politely and as sort of discreetly as I can put it. Yeah.
Okay. And I think the last thought would be personal question.
Mm-hmm,
So from your, as far as I can observe your personality, I see you as someone who is very, very assertive, and that also does not go along well in the so-called like our society sometimes.
It doesn't?
It doesn't. And when you do that, since we don't have the environment for dissents and disagreements in a very healthy way, when you're assertive, people take it as offense, right? There are chances of people taking it as offense. But how do you manage that, being assertive at the same time, not try to build a good relationship with people, not hurting them? I mean, did you face challenges? Did you struggle sometimes bonding with people?
I think here, I actually need to go back to sort of my Christian roots.
Okay.
My parents, they're from, of course, they're Baptist, but they're also from a very, they identify with a very evangelical tradition. So I was raised in a sort of very evangelical setting, in terms of our family Bible studies, in terms of, attending different camps, talks, etc. I mean, I literally grew up, I was fed on this, they're very proud and strong members of the Nagaland EGF and the UESI, etc.
Yeah.
So, and I think I owe maybe and as of now, nobody has directly told me that the word you've used, assertiveness, assertiveness, thank you for not using aggressive. But as of now, no one has really seriously taken exception to how I go about doing things. Okay. And I think one of the reasons is because I take my strategies from this kind of evangelical, inculcation I've had, where you are exposed to, of course, that aggressive evangelicism, which is, knocking on people's doors and saying, hey, have you heard about Jesus Christ, etc., but also, I think being raised with the EGF, the UESI, the EU, etc., and listening to some really great, wonderful people, some wonderful mentors here, even in Nagaland. I've really had the opportunity to understand that sometimes when you believe in something, the way to share what you believe may not necessarily be the direct way. Mm-hmm. And as somebody who is, I think of myself as a creative person. And the great joy I take is to think creatively about how I can share what I believe in creative ways. I'm also a feminist. And, feminism in general has garnered a terrible reputation of being a very angry, aggressive ideology.
Yeah.
And so when I combine my evangelical background with the feminism that I also have had to consume, so when you read about it, you think, oh, wow, this is a great ideology with wonderful ideas, but I'm just not angry, I'm not angry. So what will I do with this? And of course, taking the last thing is, my work with, indigenous epistemology, looking at orality, etc. This whole thing of just slowing down and taking your time, just having patience, just having this idea that if you get your idea out there in gentle, beautiful, creative ways, not necessarily loud, definitely not aggressive, perhaps at some point through careful conversation and patience, and yes, definitely some help from, the divine, it may work in some form or the other, having that trust. So I think when you take all that combination, I think that's how I'm able to sometimes say some pretty controversial things, but without being able to, I think, I try my best not to be aggressive. But of course, I'm also Angami, so we are masters in saying what we want in some of the most roundabout, gentle ways. And I'm Sema, so then definitely, if I have something to say, I'm going to say it. So it's not like I'm going to keep it inside. So I think my Sema Angami thing, it kind of combines together well.
Right. A very kind of like, very well engineered cocktail.
Absolutely. I think so.
Yeah. So thank you so much. That was quite an enlightening talk. And
Most welcome.
It really leaves a lot of room for me to really give a lot of thought on what you have also stated. Some things that I had not really thought about it or not even heard about it in that direction. So it's quite enlightening and kind of insightful as well to explore more on this, so that we always strike a balance and bring out the best from our culture, from our values, and all of this. Thank you so much, Theyi.
Most welcome. I had such a wonderful time talking to you.
It's a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.